Okay, here we go. This is Rising Up Recovery. This is the interview. I'm so nervous. Hi.
Jamie, hey, what's going on?
Not much, not much. Just getting ready to talk to you.
Beautiful. So, Jamie Tulu, I want to welcome you on as our guest. Um, as soon as we talked, I could tell she had a lot of greatness in her voice, and she gave me some insights into the recovery community in Georgia. And then I had to think, like Georgia, I'm thinking you're killing walkers down there, like the Walking Dead, Big Charles. like there was not the Bulldogs though. I was okay with that.
Yes, yes. Go dogs.
So Jamie is owner of Miracle Massage Group and
Mm-hmm.
certified peer specialist in Athens, Georgia. So for us, okay, let's be honest, where is Athens, Georgia located?
Okay, Athens, Georgia is in North Georgia.
Gotcha. And I don't know, is there a divide? Is there like one of those invisible lines in Georgia that we might have here in New York? Like we know, oh, this section in New York means this, or this one is rural. Do you guys have that too?
A little bit if you go more south or more toward the Alabama side, depending. It can be a little bit more rural,
Alabama here.
a little bit more rural, a little bit more southern.
Gotcha. In the beginning of the show, I told everybody, I said, we have a little bit in common here. You got some Sicilian heritage, and you are in recovery.
Yes, sir.
So,
Proud Sicilian.
okay, gotcha. I think one of the things I asked you the other day, I said, has your heritage played any role in your recovery at all?
Absolutely. Growing up, so big Italian family, okay? My dad had like nine in his he had like five brothers, two sisters. My dad was the baby. And just coming from like a huge Italian family with hundreds of cousins, and always there's always like one party or another. My family is full of Bacardi drinkers. A lot of parties, birthday parties. We've got, christenings, communions, because we're all Catholic, okay? And so there's all that, always stuff going on. Birthday parties. We're at, Auntie Josie's one night, Auntie Virginia's one night, Auntie Monday's one night, and we're always getting together, and there's always alcohol and food and just celebrations. So that definitely played a part in growing up, in what I looked at as the norm, in my life. Now in my recovery now, I've been able to be a light because I've had a couple cousins who have struggled with substance use disorder, that now just the other day, one of my cousins called me to tell me that she had gone into treatment, and she was watching the stuff I was doing, and she was really proud of me, and she told me before she told anyone else that she was struggling. So
That's a good trust issue to have, because I think in some cultures too, there's a feeling like, especially Sicilian, you don't talk about something.
oh my goodness, yes, like the elephant in the room. Yes, that is so true in the culture, in the Italian culture. Mm-hmm.
And I guess I need to start with, so where did your recovery journey begin?
So I struggled with my substance use disorder. The first time that I ever drank I was like 11 or 12. My mom will tell you though that when I was a baby, like literally in the crib, and they were having a party, that one night I like got out of the crib and drank all the leftover shots and beers. So I might have been born with this thing. I'm not sure, but starting drinking at 11 due to trying to find some stress relief, trying to change the way that I felt in my life. It went from there to, a little bit of stuff in high school, even, diet pills at 15 to, regular high school stuff, all the way up until I didn't come into recovery until I was 35 years old, and at that point had gotten in trouble some. And I remember I had gotten arrested for something, and they put me on this, extended probation, and basically told me, we're going to put you on this first offenders, which I was very lucky. And they said, basically, you have to pass a drug test and not drink for 4 years or you're going to go to prison. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do that. And I think that was the first time that it actually hit me that I did not know how to live life without substances.
That mindset, that mindfulness that we have in recovery about saying, I think, it's like, you know what? I really don't think I need it. But then when someone says you can't have it, then it's like, well, you know what? Maybe if I can just wean it off a little bit, maybe I can work my way down. So I had a similar thing with probation. Do you feel like going through recovery as a woman has been different than as a man? What's that?
I feel like there was a lot of help for me with being a woman, because I believe that there's a lot of services offered for women. I also believe that it made it a little bit harder because until I learned how to correctly utilize my recovery community, women can easily become prey in early recovery.
Big time. If anybody's listening in Rochester, New York here, with in regards to that, we had a situation where a guy was going around in groups, and it was like an infection. He just went from group taking advantage, and it was. But what happened was, where is the responsibility? The recovery community is not organized in a way that's cohesive, understanding, and has accountability. Somebody like that, there was some sort of sociopathic tendency, can run amok through that whole community. One of the things that struck me, that kind of hit me hard, was that you guys have that cohesiveness. You guys have that accountability, because in Georgia, you said it's kind of like a fad to be in recovery, and you have great allies, so many allies that want to help.
Yes, absolutely. We really had to put a lot of work in to get it this way. It has definitely changed since when I first came into recovery. First of all, there's an abundance of sober living facilities in Athens, in the whole state, really. Now, less, of course, in the rural areas, but especially in Athens, there are over 100 meetings in Athens alone. And Athens is not that big. So we definitely have the place for people to come. And I think it's really important for the people who are in the sober living to stress the fact that men go with men and women go with women.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you took an opportunity to bring that up, because I feel like that's so much. It's like pressure, isn't it? Having that situation.
Absolutely, because that's it, that's kind of all we've known as well in running the streets and manipulating people, especially as, for myself, it was about, manipulating men and getting the things that I needed, or allowing men to use me so that I could get the things that I needed. So when we come into recovery, they tell us we have to change everything, and I had to, really lean on the women in my recovery community, in my sober living, so that I could get that feeling of independence where I did not need to do those things. And I remember one day, I had gotten a job. I was waitressing somewhere, and I had learned the bus route. So I learned how to take the bus, so I didn't need to depend on anybody for a ride, and I wasn't making a ton of money. And sober living facilities, they charge you to live there. But I remember being able to, at the time, I used to smoke cigarettes, and I remember at the time being able to buy my own cigarettes and pay for my own transportation on the bus, and buy my own drinks, and thinking, gosh, this feels good to be able to support myself and not have to rely on using manipulation or lying, or allowing somebody to use me to be able to do just normal everyday things. And it was so freeing and liberating, and it gave me empowerment to be able to move forward and be like, you know what, maybe I can do this, just leaning on the women in my recovery community, which allowed for me to do some deep-rooted healing.
No, when you talk about healing too, that's a beautiful story. And it reminds me of my time in St. Louis when I had to learn how to use the metro and bus system and things. And it felt like one of those things, even though I was breaking even and I was just having enough money to go to work, it was really satisfying. It was really nice to kind of get an education again and what it was like. You have to learn how to manipulate yourself in a way, like, okay, you got to rationalize how you're going to get this done. That self-talk that works.
Mm-hmm.
There was the next thing was just that, we've heard what works locally, but what do you think needs to happen, like, nationally for people to understand that? And now we saw a little bit of that last night. You and I watched that in 60 Minutes.
Yes.
So the awareness is a big part. What has to happen after that? I mean, I've been able to sort of verbalize it in some ways locally, but on a national level, what needs to happen? What's the wake-up call? How do we get the change?
Okay. Definitely, we need to educate. Educating our local government representatives is key. And organizing the community. I know that one of the ways that we did this here in Athens, through the state actually, is we had listening sessions in our community. So what we did is we held, hundreds of listening sessions, and just, it was so beautiful because it was the first time I had ever seen in one room. We had people in recovery. We had sober living facility directors. We had probation officers, judges, and state representatives all in the same room. And we said, what do we need here? And what do we need more of? What is working? What is not working? What are our goals here?
Is part of the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse.
Mm-hmm. What?
Okay.
Was that part of the Georgia Council on Substance Abuse? Is that what you said?
Yes.
No, that wasn't. That was just recovery influencers gathering together and saying, what are we going to do to make a change? Because we are still discriminated against. There is still a stigma against people in recovery, no matter how high we have come, So we have to start locally to have a plan for the national level.
I just said something earlier in the show about, I sometimes get questioned by people in the recovery community, Jake, why does Strategy Recovery have so many police on? We've had like 3, but um, why do you bring in assemblymen, congressmen, and senators? And I said, it's just because those are the people that are going to have to carry the voiceover. But hearing what you said now has evolved my thinking, because now I'm thinking, if I wish I could get that kind of cohesiveness and that cooperation in a level in Rochester, because right now in Rochester, we're sort of overrun by groups, and this is not always a bad thing. I mean, it can become, but we have a lot of people that are involved in the awareness aspect of the recovery, and it feels like it sort of takes away. It takes away from a lot of the work that other groups are doing, because so much of it is fed with ego, media, social media, and there's not any real depth to it. If that makes sense.
Right. So are they asking enough questions? Are they going into the community and finding out what is lacking?
So, you know what you told me? You said for the program, if it was the CARES program, it needed a 2-year prerequisite.
Absolutely, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So Georgia Council on Substance Abuse has a CARES program. So it is a certified addiction recovery empowerment specialist. And you go through this training. It's a 40-hour training to be a peer specialist for addictive disease. We also have peer specialists for mental health also, and also a place for allies as well. And so you have 2 years sober, and basically it's a little bit of a selective process. You have to you have to be recommended by 2 people, and you have to have certain qualities, one of them being a leadership. So basically you have to have created something or been like a forefronter recovery influencer, which means that you live your recovery out loud. And I always tell people, when I lost my anonymity, my guilt and shame fell off, and I became empowered to share recovery inspired hope. So you have to be willing to speak out and share your hope with other people to destroy that stigma. And in that process of, the things that I was doing in my community, which was a lot of service work, I truly believe I was brought into recovery as a gift from God to serve. And so that is what I was doing. I was serving, giving my time, planting seeds, sharing hope, and found out about this CARES program. Somebody had mentioned it to me. That I work for a nonprofit organization called Divas Who Win Freedom Center, and I was actually on the board of directors at the time. And Georgia Council on Substance Abuse is kind of like our parents here in recovery in Georgia, because they basically go on the federal level and fight for us. Like, they're like on the front lines, if that makes sense. They're kind of like the final mouthpiece of all of us. And
like lobbying, and I'm thinking, that takes a lot of guts, a lot of guts to get up there and be able to speak on behalf of the recovery community at large.
Yes, and it's so powerful. So we have, there are, I was CARES cohort number 32, and I believe we had 36 or 37, each filled with about 20 people. So I'm not a mathematician. 20 times 37, whatever that is. And that is how many CARES there are. And CARES are kind of like, we run the recovery community organizations, which there are 27 RCOs in Georgia. And what that means is the RCOs are recovery community organizations where somebody had a dream and they said, I want to create an organization that addresses this, this, and this. And this is the funding I need, and this is the employees I need, and this is what I need. And Georgia Council contacts the Department of Behavioral Health and Disabilities and gets funding and says, here you go. Show us some numbers. Show us what you're doing. And there was
that model work outside of there in, like, say, Rochester. Is there a plan that somebody in Rochester look at it and say, I would like to use that model to be able to do it?
Absolutely. Georgia Council has, there's so many states that have adopted our module and our setup. We actually did a CARES program in Alaska right before COVID. So if people in Alaska are getting this, then New York surely can.
Beautiful. I got to get to this. I was blown away. I saw owner of Miracle Massage, and I'm thinking, where's the tie-in there for the recovery? And then he told me. I thought that's incredible. If you want to tell our listeners right now. You guys are joining us at 100.9 WXIR. We're here with Jamie Taluda from Georgia. He's telling us about her work in recovery. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about the Miracle Massage?
Okay, so when I had about 2 years sober, so that was 3 years ago, I had this vision because I'm so passionate. I'm a massage therapist, so I'm so passionate about massage and holistic healthcare. And I'm also so passionate about recovery. And I thought, what better way to put my two loves of my life together, recovery and massage, and create recovery massage. And I did. So I created this protocol for massage that addressed trauma, anxiety, opioid withdrawal, whatever it is, all of the things that come with substance use disorder. And I created a protocol for this massage. So it uses colored lights, music frequency, essential oils, acupressure points, reflexology points, positive words of affirmation, and different strokes. So basically, let's say somebody in early recovery comes in and they say they have like 3 weeks and they're, coming off of opioids. They really need some clarity. They're feeling kind of drained. They're kind of tired, and they need to fill out some job applications. So I'm like, okay, cool. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hook you up with some orange lighting. I'm going to give you some grapefruit essential oils mixed in with your lotion to kind of uplift you and give you some clarity. And I'm going to use these specific reflexology points and acupressure points to help you with your focus and concentration. And we're going to use some positive words of affirmation to set you up for success for your day, because you're going to get a great job today. And that's kind of how we did it. So, and I brought the idea to my very good friend, Shonda Santana, who is the owner of Divas Who Win Freedom Center. And I was on the board of directors at the time. And she said, we're pulling you off the board of directors. I'm hiring you. We're creating a wellness room. We're going to do this for men and women in recovery. And this is going to happen. How much money do you need to set up the wellness room? We're doing this. And
is that the validation? That's like, there's always a moment, sort of validations, like I've hit that point where, like, not only have I beat the recovery, but I'm doing something to eliminate it.
But what'd you say?
But you're doing something to, there's a point I think that some people have. It's like, not only am I in recovery, I'm out loud about it, I'm helping other people, but there's a certain validation I think that we seek to say that we made it.
Yes. Well, yes, to be, it gives me purpose for my pain. It's like, this is what all the suffering was for, so that I can come and I can help other people. And I brought this idea to, this is the idea that I wrote up when I went to Georgia Council on Substance Abuse and said, I want to be a CARES. This is my idea. I want to help people with massage. Let me be a CARES, and I got accepted.
We got a lot of listeners out there. You check on Facebook Live or Instagram and our website, and sometimes we have people who have no idea about the recovery world, no idea about harm reduction or how badly it's affecting Monroe County here in New York or in Georgia with overdose. What would you like to tell somebody in the public right now that doesn't have a lot of knowledge about the recovery world? What would you like them to know?
I would say to bring up that conversation. with people, because I'm telling you right now, when I tell my patients, I run a regular business as well, doing massage. And whenever I talk with my patients and because I'm open with them about what I'm doing, every time one of them says, "Oh, well, I have a cousin who's struggling," or I have a daughter who's struggling," or "My friend's kid overdosed. Can you help me? Can you tell me about this?" So don't be scared of it, because let me tell you, people in recovery, we are your bosses. We are your massage therapists. We are your nurses. We are your people ringing up your groceries. We are your neighbors. And you don't see us after we come into recovery. You see the idea of the person who's strung out, walking around on the streets holding a sign, right? But once we come into recovery, we kind of disappear, because we get...
was a Requiem for a Dream.
Huh?
We're not all Jared Leto.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Like, when we come into recovery, we kind of disappear, because guess what? We're picking up our kids in the same car line as you are. We're at the same daycare. We're at the same grocery store. And you don't look at us any different, because you don't know. So there's something we learn in recovery in Georgia Council, and it's called practice intentionally not knowing. And ask questions, And if you do know somebody who is struggling, dig a little deeper. I just did an interview with a woman, the Special Attorney General for DFACS here. And she said, Jamie, I used to just totally categorize people when they would come into the court, and I would just be like, "Oh yeah, here's another lost cause." She said, "But then I started asking questions. And when I started hearing about the traumas and the things that had happened in their life, I honestly couldn't say that I would have done things any differently than they did."
That's right. I think just being able to take that time, I think everybody in recovery has this. Yesterday, I did the grilling. That's the most bad stuff. The grilling, opening the box with the pie in it, that sort of thing. I'm like, this is kind of nice. It's kind of comfortable. And I wish people could see that sometimes recovery isn't just about, the inspiration or joining a march or anything. Sometimes it's just knowing that we finally have some peace. That's it. Just fitting in a way that people don't see. They see recovery out loud. Sometimes it's not loud. Sometimes it's soft. Sometimes it's just, sitting in the backyard with a ginger beer instead of a vodka tonic.
Right.
All of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really would like to ask you one last question before we get off the air here. For those suffering from addiction, what would you like to tell them?
I would tell them that find the person you want to invest in. Find yourself. Give yourself some time and get to know what you want out of life. Because when I came into recovery, I remember the director of the sober living facility sat me down at a table. It was like my day 2. I was still pretty foggy. And she told me, "Do you know why you're here?" And I was like, because I have to be. And she said, "You're here because somebody saw something in you that you couldn't see for yourself." And that has always stuck with me. And when I put the time in, and I put the effort in, and I put myself first, and realized that I was lovable, and that my family loved me, and God loved me, and my children loved me, I was able to pour back into myself and realize that I was worth pouring into. So it's so important for us to realize that we have purpose here. And I know before I came into recovery, I used to wake up every day pissed off that I woke up. And I would say, "Really, God? Again? I have to do this all over again?" And once you go through it, you are able to see that there was purpose for it. And one day, you're going to wake up and you're going to be happy.
Jamie Toledo, Georgia Athens, here with 100.9 WXIR Rising Recovery. Jamie, thank you for sharing your purpose with everyone today. We really appreciate it. You got a lot of greatness in your voice. I think that nickname Game Day sums you up. You're always prepared, and you've definitely been an inspiration to me. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to hearing more about your success and for what you're doing for those in recovery.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you, Jamie.
Bye.
And that was Jamie Toledo.
Wow. That was it.